You're listening to the Hour of the Time. I'm William Cooper.
And I'm Pooh.
Boy, I almost forgot to put your pot up there, didn't I? Okay. Looks like the military has found our new frequency. The loud jamming that you hear is a military crypto teletype transmission. And I don't know how long it's going to go on, but we're going to broadcast anyway. We are ruffling a lot of feathers and making a lot of people out there very angry because we're bringing them out of the shadows and into the light. See, we can turn those phrases too. Let's go to Phoenix for the metal report. Good evening, Gene.
Good evening, Bill. How are you doing tonight?
Good.
Well, let's see here. Gold today had a high of $388.60, a low of $387.50, to close at $388 even, up 40 cents. Silver had a high of $5.51, a low of $5.47, to close at $5.48, down a penny. Platinum had a high of $424.50 and a low of $414.50, to close at $414.50, down 30 cents. And the Dow had a high of 3886.90 and a low of 3862, to close at 3875.10, down 1.70. I just, this afternoon, I came across an interesting little letter. This was a letter that one of the brokers actually, he wrote to Secretary Lloyd Benson in the Treasury, and he didn't respond, but somebody in the office responded with a personal letter from the Department of Treasury in Washington, D.C. And one of the paragraphs, and the broker was asking questions about the ever-famous Federal Reserve notes, and he was going on talking about Federal Reserve notes and the Federal Reserve in itself. And one little paragraph I thought was interesting. It said here, Federal Reserve notes are not redeemable in gold or silver or any other commodity. They have not been redeemable since 1933. Thus, after 1933, a Federal Reserve note did not represent a promise to pay gold or anything else, even though the term note was retained as part of the currency. You have to understand the legal term of note meant that there was a promise to pay in some hard, tangible currency. Well, even though it's on there, it's still, they even admit it, even though the term note was retained as part of the currency. In the sense, they are not redeemable. Federal notes have not been backed by anything since 1933. They are valued not for themselves, but for what they will buy. In other words, in other sense, because they are a legal tender, Federal Reserve notes are backed by all the goods and services in the economy. As I was reading that book that was offered about a week ago.
That translates into backed by the stupid sheeple.
Exactly. Well, here's a quote. Where did I see it here? This is how the Federal Reserve creates money out of nothing. Okay? There's a kind of a 4 steps here. So step number 1, the Fed writes a check for $1 million. This money is created out of thin air with nothing more than a book entry. Unlike a personal check, there is no money on deposit to cover the check. The Fed gives a securities dealer the check, and the dealer gives the Fed a government security bond. The bond is backed by the government's assets. Guess what the government's assets are? You and me. and Congress good faith pledge on behalf of the American people. In other words, the Congress pledges your taxes to back up this bond. And the dealer deposits the check in his bank. The bank sends the check to the Fed for payment, who credits the bank's account $1 million. And thus, money was created out of nothing, and guess who gets to pay for it? You do. Another little quote here. And one of the people, as we look at history, who just, was aware of this tyranny was President Kennedy. And in if I can turn my page here.
63.
1963, June 4th, Executive Order 11110, ordered the Treasury, ordered the Federal Reserve to no longer print money and ordered the Treasury to print United States notes. Well, 4 months later, he was assassinated. In a quote, 10 days before his assassination, said, "The high office of the President has been used to foment a plot to destroy the Americans' freedom. And before I leave office, I must inform the citizens of this plight." Kind of scary, huh?
No, it's exciting.
Yeah.
Yeah, we get to take our country back. If we can get the assets, those are the asses that are setting to get up off of their asses and get them moving, we might be able to do something.
Here's a quote from a congressman just last year. It says, "We are now in Chapter 11. Members of Congress are official trustees presiding over the greatest reorganization of any bankrupt entity in world history, the United States government. We are setting forth, hopefully, a blueprint for our future. There are some who say that it is the coroner's report that will lead to our demise." This is Congressman James Trapsett, House Record 1303, March 17th, 1993.
Very good.
I mean, folks, it's right there before your very eyes. And just to let you know what's going to happen with your wonderful little Federal Reserve notes that you're all sitting on hatching like little eggs. Back in January of 1919, gold brought 170, for an ounce of gold you could buy an ounce of gold for 170 marks in Germany. 4 years later, as they just kept printing money out of nothing, it would take $87 trillion to buy 1 ounce of gold.
Now that's illuminating.
So, keep your money. Give us a call. We got some information. If you haven't got this book yet, call us. It's called Economic Solutions by Peter Kershaw. I mean, it is absolutely, as you just said, illuminating. There's things in here that, I was somewhat aware of, but it's been just absolutely an incredible book. We'll show you how you can get one. We can even give you a $10 coupon in it to purchase your first coin or first piece of gold or silver. And just give us a call, 1-800-289-2646. We've also got our new newsletter out called True Lies. We'll be happy to put together a complete packet for you. But do give us a call, and do let us know if you call at night. Let us know who you call from the William Cooper Show. Very important for us. And I talked to somebody called the other day, and they wanted this book. And I said, well, it's, they're $8.95 because they're not our books, they're Peter Kershaw's books. And
they already know that.
I told them, I said, I'll give you a $10 coupon on. So I don't want to do that. I thought, well, what are you calling for? If you want free information, go to the library.
Well, now we can't say that because we told them to call for the free information.
No, I'm talking about this was later.
Oh, yeah, after yeah.
No, but
after the deadline.
I'll even get one out to you. I'll even pay for it. If it'll help you make a decision to, like you say, get off your assets and start doing something.
Okay. Thank you, Gene.
Thanks, Bill.
Call now, folks. 1-800-289-2646. You know how you are. Do it now. Don't wait. 1-800-289-2646. You'll be real happy after you've done that, especially if you decide to do something about protecting some of what you've got before you lose it all. Pooh, would you like to open the show for us?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Okay. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
It's no coincidence, ladies and gentlemen, that the law firm that Hillary Clinton works for belongs to the man, one of the founders of the American Bar Association, and is named the Rose Law Firm.
Ladies and gentlemen, the Rose.
Coming to you from St. John's, Arizona, the studios of the Intelligence Service, this is the only, last bastion of free speech in the world. Whether you want to or not, you're going to wake up, and this is your wake-up call. Ancient Mystery Babylon sat on or controlled 6 historic world powers. Modern Mystery Babylon, English Freemasonry, sat on. That is, funded and controlled the 7th, Nazi Germany. Likewise, English Freemasonry is today in control of the contemporary 7-nation Trilateral Commission. And there is a great propaganda campaign being waged across this country to make you believe that you are part of the promise of British Israel, so that you will help destroy freedom. The Trilateral Commission is a 3rd-generation offspring of English Freemasonry. The 1st-generation offspring is the Round Table, created by Cecil Rhodes. The 2nd generation consists of the 3 Round Table groups. The Council on Foreign Relations, are known as the CFR, the Royal Institute of International Affairs, or the RIIA, located in Chatham House, which is, ladies and gentlemen, the headquarters of British intelligence, their private club, so to speak, and the Institute of Pacific Relations, or IPR. From the Round Table groups sprang the 3rd generation in 1973, known as the Trilateral Commission, which was then given the task of implementing English Freemasonry's concept of one world idealism. The Tri of Trilateral, of course, refers to 3 regions of the world: North America, Western Europe, and Japan. This division may also correlate with the 3-part body of the beast. Commission bespeaks the function given the Trilateral Commission by English Freemasonry, quote, to foster closer cooperation among these 3 regions, end quote. The nation members of the Trilateral Commission are the 7 most potent industrial powers of the world: the United States of America, Canada, Great Britain, France, Germany, Italy, and Japan. Membership also includes the heads of major oil companies, multinational corporations, and international banks. Aristocrats and politicians are members as well, including our past President George Bush. Our current President, Bill Clinton, is a member of the Bilderbergers, which we know is a cover for English Freemasonry's Round Table. And as a Rhodes Scholar, Clinton is an Anglophile. Since its founding, the Trilateral Commission has met annually to discuss solutions to common problems that hinder English Freemasonry's control and goal of controlling world government. A few months following each annual meeting, the heads of state of the 7 industrial powers hold a summit to work out a strategy for implementing these solutions, a strategy that often involves each nation's legislature. Of course, the subversive lawmakers are Anglophile politicians groomed by the roundtable groups to assure passage of any bill that would serve the special one-world interest of English Freemasonry. Indeed, John's 7 mountains on which the woman sitteth appear to be the 7-nation trilateral commission on which English Freemasonry sitteth. Lieutenant Colonel James Bogrites is a 32nd degree Freemason of the Scottish Rite. Babylon was the dominant world power when Jeremiah prophesied. Some of his prophecies were pronounced and carried out upon the Babylon of his day. Others were directed at a future Babylon, which name describes an entity, not a literal city of Babylon. We should not, for instance, be looking for the literal city of Babylon in modern Iraq to be rebuilt to fulfill Jeremiah's end-time prophecy. And remember, wherever you hear end time, it translates as end of the age. For the real word that's translated is aeon, which means age. Jeremiah 51, verse 13, describes the location of the end of the age spiritual Babylon. Quote, O you who dwell by many waters, abundant in treasures, your end is come, the measure of your end, end quote. Taken literally, this cannot mean modern Iraq, since Iraq is not surrounded by many waters, nor abundant in treasures. Great Britain, however, is abundant in treasures. She is also completely surrounded by many waters. The Atlantic Ocean to the west, the North Sea to the north and east, and the English Channel to the south. In verse 42, Jeremiah says, quote, the sea has come up over Babylon. She has been engulfed with its tumultuous waves, end quote. Now, taken figuratively, sea means peoples, as in Revelation chapter 17, verse 15, quote, the waters which you saw where the harlot sits are peoples and multitudes and nations and tongues, end quote. London boasts of having every nationality within its city limits. It is not really an English city, but an international city. An interesting scripture concerning the mother of harlots is found in Revelation chapter 18, verse 7. And it reads, quote, how much she hath glorified herself and lived deliciously. So much torment and sorrow give her. For she saith in her heart, I sit a queen, and am no widow, and shall see no sorrow. End quote. Could this scripture signify the seat of Mystery Babylon as well as allude to an actual queen sitting on the modern Babylonian throne? Consider, dear listeners, Queen Elizabeth II of England. As head of state, she is patroness of English Freemasonry and head of the Church of England. Her consort, Prince Philip, 3rd Duke of Edinburgh, is a Freemason. The Grand Master of the British Brotherhood is the Duke of Kent, the Queen's cousin. In January 1983, the Queen and her consort toured the United States. There seems to be no apparent reason for her visit other than the honor bestowed on her by the Bohemian Club of California during the last evening of her stay. And it was quite an extravaganza. The Bohemian Club is a West Coast center for the inner elite of Templar Scottish Rite Freemasonry in the United States. Some of its members are Senator Alan Cranston, former FBI and CIA Director William Webster, former Secretaries of State George Shultz and Henry Kissinger, George Bush, and many, many others. On February the 3rd, 1983, a 5-minute segment of the Bohemian Club's extravaganza in honor of Queen Elizabeth was aired on all 3 television networks. The event began with a view of the Queen sitting slightly high in the middle of the auditorium, as if on top a pyramid. Two dancers entered the stage wearing huge hats hanging from cable. The cone of the first hat was representative of a walled city with a pyramid, or ziggurat, towering in the middle, reminding one of descriptions of ancient Babylon. Obviously, it portrayed ancient Babylon, as you will soon see. At the base of the pyramid, two doors continuously flapped open and shut, displaying inside a large picture of Prince Charles, successor to the British throne, and his wife, Princess Diana. As the dancer in hat moved stage right, the second dancer entered from stage left. The cone on the second hat portrayed the city of London, with Big Ben towering in the center. When both dancers centered themselves with the brims of the huge hats reaching from one end of the stage to the other, a voice, as if out of the very air, bellowed, quote, "O Queen, you have traversed the ages from Babylon to London," end quote. Ever so slightly, and without a smile, Queen Elizabeth nodded as if in agreement to the statement. That night, the Bohemian Club, an arm of Templar Scottish Rite Freemasonry, acknowledged London as the seat of Mystery Babylon. Queen Elizabeth accepted that acknowledgement. If London is the city that the Apostle John saw in his vision, Queen Elizabeth's life and nation will be short-lived. For who knows better the headquarters of its rival than the ruthless French Knights Templar Scottish Rite of Freemasonry? There will come a time when God will no longer tolerate the sins of Mystery Babylon and will destroy her. Before that happens, however, God in His mercy warns His people to sever their relationship with the whore of Babylon. In Revelation chapter 18, verses 4 through 5, God warns, quote, "Come out of her, my people, that ye be not partakers of her sins, and that ye receive not of her plagues, for her sins have reached unto heaven, and God hath remembered her iniquities." End quote. Revelation chapter 17, verses 12 through 18, and all of Revelation 18 record the end of the age destruction of Mystery Babylon. This absolutely horrible description says that it will be so rapid and complete that it can only be accomplished by modern nuclear weaponry. Revelation chapter 18, verses 10 and 11 describes the financial depression that this destruction will bring upon the whole earth. Quote, "Alas, alas, that great city Babylon, that mighty city, for in 1 hour is thy judgment come, and the merchants of the earth shall weep and mourn over her, for no man buyeth their merchandise any more." End quote. The headquarters of Mystery Babylon cannot, dear listeners, be Rome. It should be obvious that if Rome were obliterated by a nuclear bomb today, the world economic system would not suffer. Conversely, if London, the financial capital of the world, were likewise destroyed, the world economic system would suddenly halt, collapse, as indicated in the Scripture. English Freemasonry is the mother of harlots. London is Mystery Babylon. Ground zero is at 10 Duke Street, St. James, London, England, SW1, the 33rd degree Supreme Council headquarters of English Freemasonry. Now you know the identity of the Queen of Babylon, and you know the identity of Mystery Babylon. And now there is no excuse for not coming out of her, as you were admonished to do in the book that you all claim cannot lie. In Isaiah chapter 28, verses 15 through 18, I quote, "We have made a covenant with death, and with hell are we at agreement. When the overflowing scourge shall pass through, it shall not come unto us, for we have made lies our refuge, and under falsehood have we hid ourselves." Isaiah also says, and I quote, "Judgment also will I lay to the measuring line, and righteousness to the plummet, and the hall shall sweep away the refuge of lies, and the water shall overflow the hiding place. And your covenant with death shall be disannulled, and your agreement with hell shall not stand." End quote. George Bush was a member of what is known as the Brotherhood of Death, also known as the Russell Trust. Hell in the Bible literally means grave or crypt. He took his initiation in the crypt at Yale University. The symbol of the Knights Templars is the skull in bones, which is also the symbol of the Brotherhood of Death, or the Russell Trust. It is also a prominent symbol in Freemasonry, also in the Rosy Cross, the Knights of Pythias, and many others. Many, many others. It is time. It is time, ladies and gentlemen, to mature. You now know the identity of Mystery Babylon. And now I will begin the revelation of the identity of the beast. And there are 7 kings. 5 are fallen, and 1 is, and the other is not yet come. And when he cometh, he must continue a short space. And the beast that was, and is not, even he is the 8th, and is of the 7, and goeth into perdition. And the 10 horns which thou sawest are 10 kings, which have received no kingdom as yet, but receive power as kings 1 hour with the beast. These have one mind, and give their power and strength unto the beast. These shall hate the whore, and shall make her desolate. Revelation chapter 17, verses 9 through 13, and verse 16. I would remind you that a good portion of this broadcast comes from a book entitled Scarlet and the Beast. My own research, the research of the members of CAGI and the Intelligence Service. If you would like a copy of this book, send us $39.95. It's post-paid. Make checks or money orders out to Annie, A-N-N-I-E, A-N-N-I-E. Send them to the Intelligence Service, Post Office Box 14220, Sholo, Arizona, 85901. That's P.O. Box 14220, Sholo, Arizona, 85901. Now, folks, Scripture sometimes expresses the beast as a nation, and at other times as a person. As a person, the beast is so integrated with his empire that beast and empire become one. In our search for the beast, whether man or empire, it is significant to understand that Scripture teaches that the beast will sign a treaty with Israel, guaranteeing her 7 years of peace. With that guarantee, the Jews will accept the beast as Messiah, because they, as the rest of the world, will be deceived. It is worthwhile to recall again the statement made by Arthur Crawford, pastor and Bible teacher from Riverside Bible Church in Columbus, Ohio, on the who or what the beast Messiah. And 2 rabbis have suggested that as far as they are concerned, Messiah could be a set of nations,
a world power that guaranteed their integrity. An individual or organization, they don't really care. Any of those, according to the rabbis, would meet the biblical prophecies of Messiah. In our search for the beast, we are looking only for the empire and not the man. We learned in the previous chapter that the 7 heads of the beast are historic world powers, Nazi Germany being the 7th. Revelation chapter 17, verse 11 states that the 8th is the beast empire. In Daniel chapter 7, verse 7, the prophet says that this beast is different from all the beasts that were before it. In Daniel chapter 11, verses 36 through 39, the prophet explains how the end-time beast shall differ from all other previous gods, tyrants, and evildoers. Listen carefully. Quote, "And the king shall do according to his will, and he shall exalt himself, and magnify himself above every god, and shall speak marvelous things against the God of gods, and shall prosper till the indignation be accomplished. For that is determined shall be done. Neither shall he regard the God of his fathers, nor the desire of women, nor regard any god, for in his estate shall he honor the God of forces, and a God whom his fathers knew not shall he honor with gold and silver, and with precious stones and pleasant things. Thus shall he do in the most strongholds with a strange God, whom he shall acknowledge and increase with glory." End quote. That the beast disregards traditional gods suggests that he will take his government out from under the mystic control of the whore of Babylon, which is English Freemasonry. He will replace the traditional gods with a strange god called the God of forces, whom he increases with glory. What does the prophet Daniel mean by the phrase, the God of forces? The Hebrew word for forces literally means fortified place, fortress, or strength. Figuratively, it means defense. The word strange means to respect. The beast will increase this God with glory. The word increase means to build up, and the word glory means riches. Now, with these definitions in mind, let us interpret the passage as follows. Daniel is revealing that the God of the end-of-the-age beast will be an awesome defense force that the world respects. A defense force that is built up with riches. We know that today's military armament is promoted as defense, and that, ironically, military budgets are called defense budgets. Revelation chapter 13, verse 4 confirms the awesome defense capability of the beast. Quote, "Who is like unto the beast? Who is able to make war with him?" End quote. Confirmation that we are living in the days prophesied by John and Daniel is also found in the world's monetary outlay on armament. You see, on June 10, 1991, Reuters News Syndicate reported in newspapers across our nation that during the decade of the 1980s, global spending on arms approached $1 trillion. In 1990 alone, says Reuters, world spending on the military was about $900 billion. This amounts to spending almost $2 million a minute on war and the weapons of war, an unprecedented amount in the annals of history. And Reuters was not talking about, nor was it taking into consideration, arms bought by individual citizens. Scripture indicates that the beast will rely upon military might to gain and maintain power. We have, in the course of these broadcasts, seen how all French Masonic-backed revolutions have used military might, violence, and terror to achieve their ends. Remember the reign of terror in France, when the streets literally ran with blood as the heads were lopped off minute after minute, hour after hour, day by day, week after week, and month after month. The guillotines never rested. We can conclude that the beast will be a nation that, with the help of French Freemasonry, will cast out by revolution the horn of a monarchy and form a new nation. When this new nation matures, it will become a mighty nation with an awesome defense force. A nation, ladies and gentlemen, that will, with one exception, have the same characteristics of ancient Rome. The exception? The beast will not follow the mystery Babylonian religion of English Freemasonry, but will instead follow the atheist, humanist tradition of French Freemasonry, secular humanism, whereupon man will declare himself as God. The allegiance of the beast to French Freemasonry is confirmed in Scripture. You may recall that French Freemasonry declared in 1877 that there is no God. It proclaimed its secular humanism in the motto, quote, "To the glory of humanity," end quote. Likewise, the beast regards no God, and like French Freemasonry, which made a god of humanity, the beast then exalts himself and magnifies himself above every god, thus fulfilling Scriptures. Is there further scriptural evidence to support this interpretation of the nature of the beast? Dr. Alfred Rehrwinkel, in his book entitled The Flood, published in 1952, says that Jesus prophesied an end of the age world of atheist humanists. Listen carefully. In Matthew chapter 24, verse 37, Christ tells his disciples that the last days will be as it was in the days of Noah. Rehrwinkel says that, quote, "the generation before the flood was not a pagan or idolatrous race," end quote. He says they were godless. Rehrwinkel points to archaeological evidence which supports Scripture, and his thesis, quoting Sir Charles Leonard Woolley, a British archaeologist who has noted, quote, "In no single grave has there been any figure of a god, any symbol or ornament that strikes one as being of a religious nature," end quote. The Old Testament offers further insight into the atheistic, amoral humanism of the beast and his antediluvian precursors, known as the Atlanteans. Genesis chapter 6, verse 4 informs us what antediluvian humanity was like. Quote, "There were giants in the earth in those days, and also after that, when the sons of God came in unto the daughters of men, and they bare children to them, the same became mighty men, which were of old, men of renown." End quote. Rehrwinkel unravels the enigmas of this passage from Genesis and applies it to the atheistic humanists of our day and world. Quote, "The Hebrew word Nephilim means more than what we understand by the term giant. It means those that fall upon others, brigands, thugs, tyrants. These Nephilim were famous in that world. They had made a great name for themselves through their acts of violence, lawlessness, and corruption. They were known by all, and their statues were probably found in the antediluvian shrines of honor. There are Nephilim, or giants, in the world today. They are the men who rule this world. They hold their councils in secret. They dispose of countries and millions of human beings as so many figures on a chessboard. They confiscate property that does not belong to them and condemn millions of innocent people to a horrible death of misery and starvation. They blot out whole cities of men, women, and children with hell-born missiles of death, but they are applauded as great men and renowned, and their portraits and statues are given a place of honor in the halls of fame in our world today." End quote. Rehrwinkel suggests that the sons of God were not supernatural beings, but powerful men who considered themselves as gods, exactly as it was stated in the Garden of Eden. A humanistic philosophy which follows atheism. Likewise, we see that Daniel's beast is atheistic because he regards no God. The beast reveals his humanist face when he declares himself as God. If the beast god arises out of French Freemasonry, it is understandable why, according to Revelation chapter 17, verse 16, he will destroy his competitor, English Freemasonry, which believes in many gods. The Apostle John also suggests that the beast kingdom will come out of French Freemasonry, and in Revelation 13, verse 1, he saw the beast, quote, rise up out of the sea, end quote. Now the sea, remember, is a figure of speech for the mass of people upon the earth. As Revelation 17, verse 15 explains, quote, the waters which thou sawest are peoples and multitudes and nations and tongues, end quote. The French Masonic revolutions sprang from the grassroots of mass movements, and these movements then created democratic republics run by the people and for the people. Unlike English Freemasonry, which wants a world government run by an elite aristocracy, French Freemasonry is working feverishly toward a universal democratic republic run by the people. If the beast arises out of French Freemasonry, naturally the beast's empire will be a democratic republic, as was ancient Rome, and that is why I caution you on this broadcast that there is no patriot organization. The leaders of both sides are controlling this clash, and it really makes no difference which side wins. One, you will be under the aristocratic control of English Freemasonry. The other, you will be under the socialistic, communistic control of French Freemasonry. Most of the leaders in the Patriot movement belong to the Scottish Rite of Freemasonry, which are the Templars of France. You had better wake up, ladies and gentlemen. You are being manipulated beyond manipulation, and you haven't got the basis in education or understanding to even know which way the tide is flowing. It is my belief that humanity must mature. Each individual must stop following leaders and movements, but must follow the truth. Seek ye the truth, and the truth shall make you free. And that should be the prime order of the day. It is the only order around here. The only order around here. Clarence Larkin, in the book of Revelation 19:19, pictures the beast as having 7 heads with 10 crowned horns on the 7th head. At first, reading this would appear to be the description in Revelation 13, verse 1. And I stood upon the land of the sea, and saw a beast rise up out of the sea, having 7 heads and 10 horns, and upon his horns 10 crowns. Revelation, however, does not specifically state that the 10 horns are on the 7th head. Which head the crowned horns are upon is a matter of interpretation. It could be, dear listeners, that the 10 horns are actually the 8th head in Revelation, chapter 17, verses 10 through 11. Quote, and there are 7 kings, 5 are fallen, and 1 is, and the other, the 7th, is not yet come. And when he cometh, he must continue a short space. And the beast that was, and is not, even he is the 8th, and is of the 7. End quote. In Revelation chapter 13, verse 3, we learn that one of the beast's heads seemed to have a mortal wound, but its mortal wound was healed. By interpreting the wounded and healed heads in this passage as the 7th and 8th heads in Revelation chapter 17, verse 11, Larkin pictures the two as being one. He does this by changing the word 7 to 7th. He writes, quote, even he is the 8th and is of the 7th, end quote. Since he was writing in 1919, Larkin's interpretation is understandable. He wrote before the rise of Nazi Germany, the 7th head. Larkin agrees with Scripture that the beast is the 8th head. but it is a matter of interpretation whether the beast actually came out of the seventh head or out of one of the seven. Since 1919, we have been given almost 3/4 of a century of history to be illumined by Bible prophecy. We can hold this history up to Scripture and see what, from these years, is a possible fulfillment of prophecy. And I would caution you, as I have always done, you must understand what is fulfillment of prophecy and what is fulfillment by man. We can now see that the eighth head is not of the seventh, for John describes his visions of the eighth head as if he himself were contemporary with the end of the age. And the beast that was and is not. Let me read it another way, and I'm going to insert some meaning so that you'll understand what I'm reading. Quote, "And the beast that was," meaning the sixth head of old Rome, "and is not," which means the slain head or demise of old Rome, "even he is the eighth," which is the healed head or revived Rome. Notice that John skips the seventh head, which we believe is Nazi Germany. Our hypothesis is that the 10 crowns, or 10 kings, are on the eighth head. And this understanding is further strengthened by verse 12, where it is written that the beast gives power to the 10 kings, and by verse 13, where we are told, "These 10 kings have one mind, and shall give their power and strength unto the beast," which is the eighth head. Who or what are the 10 crowns, or kings that will adorn the head of the beast? Well, prophecy scholars believe that the 10 kings in Revelation chapter 17, verse 12, will be 10 of the 12 member nations which make up the European Economic Community, known as the EEC, or European Common Market, or United States of Europe. These scholars view the Common Market as the revived Roman Empire, since the Common Market encompasses the western territory of the old Roman Empire. They believe the EEC is the embryo of the beast, the eighth world power recorded by John. Grand Orient Freemasonry was the force behind the Treaty of Rome, which formed the EEC in 1957. Every single president of the EEC has since been a Grand Orient Mason. Its current head is France's President François Mitterrand at the time, the most powerful 33rd degree Grand Orient Mason in Europe. In 1957, the original signatories of the Treaty of Rome were 6 nations: France, West Germany, Italy, Belgium, the Netherlands, and Luxembourg. Their intent is eventually to unite Europe, a desire of French Freemasonry as far back as Napoleon Bonaparte. And that emerged again in 1848 when the Grand Orient first mentioned by name the idea of inaugurating the United States of Europe. Dr. Walter Hallstein, 33rd degree Grand Orient Mason and past president of the EEC, detailed the vision of a united Europe in a speech in the 1960s when he said this, quote, "3 phases of the European unification are to be noted. First, the customs union. Second, the economic union. Third, the political union. What we have created on the way to uniting Europe is a mighty economic political union of which nothing may be sacrificed for any reason. Its value exists not only in what it is, but more in what it promises to become. We may fully expect the great fusion of all economic, military, and political communities together into the United States of Europe," end quote. Charles de Gaulle, President of France from 1958 to 1969, used the EEC as an instrument in the service of French interests, attempting once in 1963 to unite Europe under its banner, with France the leader. De Gaulle failed when opposed by West Germany. De Gaulle did, however, successfully oppose in 1958 and 1963, that's 1958 and 1963, 2 attempts by Great Britain to join the EEC. For economic survival, London organized in 1959 the Seven-Nation European Free Trade Association, or EFTA, with Austria, Norway, Portugal, Sweden, Switzerland, Finland, and Iceland. The purpose of the EFTA was to reduce tariffs on imports received from other member countries. As described in Revelation 17, verse 9, this combination of seven nations should be considered the whore of Babylon, English Freemasonry, sitting on seven heads. The EFTA, however, ceased operation when England, Denmark, and Ireland were allowed to join the European Common Market in 1973. The very same year that the Seven-Nation Trilateral Commission reared its ugly head and was founded by the Anglophile Council on Foreign Regulations under British Freemasonry. In 1981, Greece joined the Common Market, increasing the total to 10. Bible prophecy scholars were ecstatic. I don't know why. It signifies great suffering. This joy, evinced by some, is sickening to me. But since that time, Spain and Portugal have joined. The EEC, however, is still considered by scholars as part of the future revived Roman Empire, which entity, if this interpretation is correct, will in God's time consist of 10 nations. The EEC inaugurated the United States of Europe, or the USE, on December 31st, 1992, 7 years to the day of year 2000. 10 of the 12 nations voted to accept the Eurodollar as common currency. The two holdouts were England and Ireland. In July 1993, both nations voted to accept the European currency, although there are still 12 nations in the EEC. When the beast burns London, Ireland will fall too, and there will be 10 nations. Good night, ladies and gentlemen, and God bless you all. We will continue this tomorrow night, and every other night as long as it takes. And we will absolutely pinpoint and identify the beast. You're listening to the Hour of the Time. I'm William Cooper.
And I'm Pooh.
Well, why don't you start us off?
Okay. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I want to do it tomorrow so I won't forget.
Okay, you be here tomorrow night and we'll do it again.
No, I want to do it today.
You want to do it today?
Uh-huh.
Well, go ahead.
Okay. I pledge allegiance to the flag to the United States of I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
What made you think you would forget it?
I don't know.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Well, folks, tonight we're going to continue with our revelations on the identity of the beast empire, that is. As we told you, we were not going to attempt to identify the man, but the empire. And that's exactly what we're going to do. You know, it galls me when I listen to shortwave and the other radio stations and hear all of these other people telling you that you heard it first there, that they warned you, and that they're the only ones that are revealing what's going on in this country. Because when I wrote about it in my book almost 5 years ago, and before that began to stand up and tell the world what was coming, every one of those people said that I was crazy. Every single one of them. Tom Valentine even called me a CIA agent and said that I could not be trusted. He signed his show off tonight with the admonition that you heard it all from Tom Valentine on Radio Free America first. Tom Valentine, you're a barefaced liar.
The struggle, ladies and gentlemen, between English and French Freemasonry has produced such a convoluted body of entangled nations with so many conflicting interests that it can only be described as a beast. For example, 4 of the nations in French Freemasonry's European Common Market are also members of English Freemasonry's 7-Nation Trilateral Commission. Those are England, France, Germany, and Italy. In looking at this convoluted mess, the prophet Daniel could hardly describe what he saw. He recorded in Daniel chapter 7, verse 7, that it was dreadful and terrible and strong exceedingly, and it was diverse from all the beasts that were before it. The Apostle John appears to have had the same problem in his description, for his account of the 7 heads as 7 nations and 10 crowns as 10 kings leave the reader asking where the crowns are located on the body of the beast. John did not specifically mention on which of the 7 heads, or 8, the 10 horns were mounted, although we believe they are on the 8th head, and the debate continues among prophecy scholars even unto this day. The beast's body, according to Revelation chapter 13, verse 2, is made up of a leopard, the head, or teeth, some say, of a lion, and the feet of a bear. Interestingly, the national emblems of England and Russia are the lion and the bear, respectively. What nation the leopard represents is not quite yet clear. But one fact is certain. The 10 European nations, or 10 crowns in Revelation chapter 17, verse 12, are not the body of the beast. You see, the 10 crowns are separate, as described in John's vision. Likewise, Daniel chapter 7, verses 7 through 8, reveals the same 10 plus 1 beast. Quote, "After this, I saw in the night visions, and behold, a 4th beast, and it had 10 horns. I considered the horns, and behold, there came up among them another little horn." End quote. Bible commentators, English and Bauer, state that this little horn is the same as the beast, or the 8th world kingdom mentioned in Revelation chapter 17, verse 11. John said the beast comes out of the 7, which means the beast kingdom may come from both the historical 7 empires and the end-time 7-nation trilateral commission. Daniel said the beast comes up from among the 10, which means it may come from one of the 12 common market nations. But by placing the 3 groups of nations side by side, we should be able to determine which kingdom or nation is the beast kingdom by focusing on the one listed in all 3 groups. In the historic 7, remember, there were Egypt, Assyria, Babylon, Medo-Persia, Greece, Rome, and Nazi Germany. In the Trilateral Commission, there's the United States, Canada, England, Japan, France, Italy, or Rome, and Germany. In the Common Market, we have France, Belgium, the Netherlands, Luxembourg, England, Ireland, Denmark, Greece, Spain, Portugal, Italy, which again is Rome, and Germany. There are 2 nations in all 3 columns. And exactly as I predicted in my series on Mystery Babylon, they're Rome and Germany. Many Bible prophecy scholars believe the beast's headquarters will be based at Rome, especially those who view the Roman Church as Mystery Babylon. And this, of course, would make the beast and the whore reign from the same city, which is unlikely. If, as Revelation chapter 17, verses 16 through 17 says, the beast permits the 10 kings to burn the city of the whore. In the process, he would permit the burning of his own headquarters. And this isn't likely. You see, if the headquarters of the whore of Babylon is not Rome, but London, then Rome could be a candidate for the headquarters of the beast.
A revived political Rome does not, however, have to be ruled from old Rome. Make sure that you understand this premise. Daniel says the beast, or little horn, which means new nation, or young nation, came up among the 10 European nations. Therefore, Rome, or any one of the other 9 nations, could have the same characteristics of ancient Rome, or the beast could be an 11th nation, as the little horn suggests. Therefore, the beast could be a young nation that was born or came up from among the 10 nations. And more accurately stated, ladies and gentlemen, the beast nation is a young nation whose population came from the territory of the 10 European nations. Some of you who have a good brain in your head already know who I'm talking about. To identify the little horn, which is revived Rome, we must consider the makeup of ancient Rome. For ancient Rome had 14 basic characteristics before its division by Constantine. 1, it was a democratic republic. 2, it had a divided balance of power. 3, it was based upon specific laws. 4, it protected the rights of Roman citizens. 5, it enforced an international law that all Roman citizens are equal. 6, it had a sordid history of slavery. 7, it operated under a capitalist system. 8, it authorized abortions. 9, it loved what we would call R-rated entertainment, and that's putting it mildly. 10, it offered state welfare programs funded by taxes. 11, it had a thriving business in lawsuits. 12, it was the melting pot of the world. 13, it promoted sports as its favorite pastime. And 14, it displayed as its national emblem the single-headed eagle with wings spread. After the division, the eagle became double-headed. Since the reign of Charlemagne as the first Holy Roman Emperor, German kings have been the most influential rulers in the Holy Roman Empire. As such, they became the new Caesars, or Kaisers, in Germany. As Reverend Church says, it seems that Germany plays a far more important role in the fulfillment of Bible prophecy than one might think at first glance. The thought that the future Antichrist could have his roots in Germany becomes more plausible when one considers the historical roots of the empire. Germany's historic roots, ladies and gentlemen, fit many of the requirements of revived Rome. Today, Germany is a democratic republic, has a divided balance of power, is based upon specific laws, protects the rights of its citizens, operates under a capitalist system, and has a sordid history of slavery under Nazism. For those in the labor camps were indeed slaves. Germany's most significant historic symbol and resemblance to ancient Rome is its national emblem, adopted from Constantine when Constantine came to power in 306 AD. He moved his headquarters from Rome to Constantinople in Asia Minor. His Eastern Empire became known as the Byzantine Empire, or the Second Rome. To symbolize the divided empire, Constantine transformed the Roman eagle from a single head to a double head, according to Mackey's Encyclopedia of Freemasonry. Upon the dissolution of that empire, the emperors of Germany, who claimed their empire to be the representative of ancient Rome, assumed the double-headed eagle as their symbol. Another reason, folks, that Germany could be revived Rome is found in Revelation chapter 13, verse 3. John says of the beast, quote, "And I saw one of his heads as it were wounded to death, and his deadly wound was healed," end quote. As we have seen, the seventh head was Nazi Germany. The dividing of Germany into East and West after World War II may indicate the wounding of the seventh head. The head healed may refer to the recent reunification of both Germanys in October 1990. Germany, however, must be disqualified. Sorry to disappoint those of you who were hoping that Germany was the one. But it must be disqualified as revived Rome for two important reasons. First, folks, Revelation chapter 13, verse 4 states that the beast will be a military power second to none. Second to none. At present, Germany is not that military power, but that could change rapidly. Second, as a member of the European Common Market, Germany is one of the 10 horns, whereas Revelation 17, verse 12, describes the beast as being separate from the 10. Likewise, Daniel chapter 7, verse 8, describes the beast not as the 10 horns, but as the little horn that came up from among the 10. As stated earlier, the little horn implies a young nation. Germany is millenniums old, and the phrase came up from among the 10 horns indicates that this young nation will be populated from the territory of the 10 nations of the old Roman Empire. And again, this cannot in any way, shape, or form mean Germany. For Germany is still primarily populated strictly and proudly by Germanic races. Now, I'd like to remind you all at this point that a good portion of this broadcast comes from a book entitled Scarlet and the Beast. From my research, the research of the members of the Intelligence Service and the Citizens Agency for Joint Intelligence. And if you would like to purchase this book, Scarlet and the Beast, send us $39.95. That price is post-paid. Make checks or money orders out to Annie, A-N-N-I-E. That's $39.95 per book. Make checks or money orders out to Annie, A-N-N-I-E. And send it to the Intelligence Service, Post Office Box 1420, Sholo, Arizona, 85901. That's P.O. Box 1420, Sholo, Arizona, 85901. 85901. Now I continue with tonight's subject. Russia could also be a candidate for the beast, for under the Tsars and the Soviets, Russia had a sordid history of slavery. Under the Soviets, Russia was a socialist republic. Socialism, if you'll remember from listening to this broadcast, is nothing more than democracy. And democracy is, of course, a code word for socialism. So the more you hear that word bandied about this country, the more you had better be prepared for socialism. Russia was a socialist republic with a large Gulag slave population. And since December 1991, when the Soviet Union was dissolved, or at least we have been made to believe that it was dissolved, if you read Gorbachev's book entitled Perestroika, you'll see, in his own words, it's a sham. Russia became a democratic republic and therefore can be considered a young nation, a little horn. Moreover, Russia is attempting to operate under a capitalist system, as did old Rome. Russia's most significant resemblance to old Rome goes back to the fall of Constantinople, the Second Rome, in 1453, when the Turks took that city. From that date, Russia has considered itself as the Third Rome. In 1472, Ivan III was the first Russian emperor to call himself Tsar, which is Russian for Caesar. Mackey's Encyclopedia of Freemasonry reports how Russia adopted the double-headed eagle as its emblem. It was taken by Ivan III as his device on his marriage with Zoe I can't pronounce that word, folks. Zoe Palaiologa, I believe, is the closest that I can get to it. Also known as Sophia, daughter of Thomas of Morea, claimant to the imperial throne of Byzantium. Ivan III claimed to be the successor of the Eastern Roman emperors. Now, if we're to consider Russia as revived Rome, it must share all the characteristics of ancient Rome. But Russia, however, has a long history of failing miserably to protect the rights of her citizens. And she certainly is not the melting pot of the world. Furthermore, according to the description given in Revelation 13 and 17, the headquarters of the beast must be in a powerful nation with a strong economic, political, and military base, identical to that of ancient Rome. When the whore's city, London, is destroyed, the economy of the world can quickly be transferred to the headquarters of the beast kingdom, where it will be controlled by his mark, 666. And this cannot be Russia, for modern Russia is a nation whose economic stability for 3/4 of a century has depended upon financial infusions from the West. And if you've listened to this broadcast for very long, you know all about that. The most significant reason that Russia cannot be the beast kingdom is that she is not one of the 7 historic or contemporary heads of the beast, as Revelation 17, chapter 11 demands. Nor was her nation populated by immigrants from the territory of the old Roman Empire, as Daniel chapter 7, verse 8 requires. Furthermore, Ezekiel 38 and 39 indicates that Russia will be destroyed before the beast kingdom can have military preeminence. So let's look at France. France today, under the leadership of 33rd degree Grand Orient Freemason Francis Mitterrand, is preparing for the coming of Antichrist to head the long-awaited French Masonic United States of Europe on December 31st. In 1992, that nation, or that organization, became reality. And in 1983, Mitterrand hired a Japanese architect named I.M. Pei to transform the courtyard of the old royal castle into a pyramid. The location of the pyramid is cynically symbolic of Masonry's triumph over both Christianity and the monarchical rule of France. Pei's pyramid, folks, is made of triangular glass window panes. The weekly Insight magazine of July 3, 1989, tells us this story, and I quote, "The number of window panes in Pei's pyramid, said to be 666, and the form of the pyramid itself are reflections of the president's, that is, Mitterrand's passion for Masonic symbols, not to speak of his fondness for communing with the spirits of earth, that leads him every year, druid-like, to celebrate the spring equinox by pounding a wooden stick on a certain hill called Roche de Soltray in central France." France, ladies and gentlemen, however, cannot be revived Rome, because it does not have all 14 characteristics of ancient Rome. For example, France is not the melting pot of the world, nor does she display the eagle as her national emblem. In Revelation 17, the beast is initially controlled by the whore of Babylon, for she is riding on the back of the beast. And we've shown that the United Nations is currently controlled by English Freemasonry, the modern whore of Babylon. Moreover, both Freemasonries are allied politically in the United Nations, as they initially appear to be in the beast. But there's a problem of numbers. You see, it eliminates the United Nations at the present time as the kingdom of the beast. The lack of distinct divisions of 10 nations and 7 nations in the General Assembly or the Security Council of the United Nations would suggest it is not the beast. But if you read my book and you've looked at the world government model of regionalism as outlined in the appendix, you will see that the world will be divided into 10 regions. Furthermore, the United Nations has no real military strength of its own, as the beast must have. If the United Nations has any significance at all, it's by virtue of the nation on which soil it resides, and nothing more. Nothing more.
The United Nations' strength as a world power exists only, and I've said this over and over again, it was a creation of the United States of America, and it exists only because of the military might of the United States of America, and the United States of America at the present time is furnishing its military forces as the police force of the United Nations. And not because of any of the United Nations' power. You see, the limits of United Nations power was effectively demonstrated in the recent war with Iraq. Old Babylon. Had it not been for the dominant presence of United States armed forces, the United Nations would not have had the military might to back up its demands that Iraq leave Kuwait, nor would it have had the military might to exert its force against any concept of sovereignty of nations under international law. To build a solid case for identifying the beast kingdom, we must consider more recent developments in Europe, which may cause the European Economic Community, our common market, to dissolve. You see, the four primary structural organs of the EEC include the Commission, the Council of Ministers, the Court of Justice, and the European Parliament. The European Parliament, folks, inaugurated the United States of Europe on December the 31st, 1992, exactly 7 years to the day from the year 2000. Significant. The figure 7 being a very important and prophetic number of years. You see, the United States of Europe, a phrase first coined in 1848 by French Freemasonry, is the much-touted precursor to French Freemasonry's world government, world socialism, and may itself be the 10 horns on the head of the revived Roman Empire instead of 10 of the 12 common market nations. This, of course, would exclude England and Ireland. The fulfillment of the prophecy in Revelation chapter 17, verses 12 through 13 and 16 indicates how this might happen. In this passage, we see that the 10 kings in the United States of Europe will hate the whore, London, and pledge their allegiance to the beast. When the beast gives the 10 kings permission to burn London, Ireland will go too. Now remember, ladies and gentlemen, a comment that I made several weeks ago on this broadcast, that William Clinton, even though educated in the Rhodes Scholarship Program, even though he was brought to power by Mystery Babylon, he has turned against his master and has sided with the beast. Make you think? Does that make the wheels turn? I certainly hope so. Scripture gives us wisdom with which we can irrefutably identify the beast according to Scripture and his kingdom. Now, this wisdom comes from understanding the mark of the beast in Revelation chapter 13, verses 16 through 18. And if any of you saw my 7-hour tape of the workshop that I did in Atlanta, Georgia, you already know what I'm going to talk about here. Quote, "And he causeth all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive a mark in their right hand or in their foreheads, and that no man might buy or sell save he that had the mark, or the name of the beast, or the number of his name. Here is wisdom. Let him that hath understanding count the number of the beast, for it is the number of a man, and his number is 666, and there are 2 ways to compute this. Roman numerals give the clue of how to identify the mark of the beast. When the New Testament was written, Rome used a combination of 6 alphabet letters to make up all their numbers, every one of them. The letters are D, C, L, X, V, I. The letter M, representing 1000, is a more recent invention. Originally, it was CIC with the right-hand C turned backwards. And by connecting the 2 C's to the I in the middle, it gradually evolved into M. The 6 original Roman numerals and their numerical equivalent values are D equals 500, C equals 100, combine the 2, that is 600.
L equals 50, X equals 10. You combine those two, it equals 60. V equals 5, I equals 1. Combine those two, it equals 6. And they total, in a column, DCLXVI 666. When we group each of the letters above in order of twos, we discover the exact fulfillment of Revelation 13, verse 18, exactly as I have just outlined. Applying this scriptural wisdom, we can discover that the kingdom of the beast will be a revival of the old Roman Empire. And I demonstrated that in all of my lectures for the last several years. Whatever nation this kingdom is, the ultimate test for identification comes from understanding his mark or symbol, which is 666, and Scripture says it will be tied to the medium of exchange. Now remember, ladies and gentlemen, that Adam Weishaupt established the Illuminati in 1776. Our forefathers, all members of this same secret organization, this fraternal organization, dollar bill from your wallet and look on the reverse of the Great Seal of the United States, you'll see a pyramid there with 13 courses of stone. On the bottom stone, you will see Roman numerals representing 1776. Now, among these secret societies is a group of men called the Order of the Trapezoid. The trapezoid merely represents a pyramid on top of a pyramid, representing the New Age slogan or philosophy, as above, so below. Whatever is created automatically has its opposite created at the same moment. When our forefathers created this nation under God, they never told us which God they created it under. They set up, according to their own philosophy, the procedure to seat the Antichrist upon the throne of the world, ladies and gentlemen. And if you take that 1776 MDC CLXXVI and place them around the corners of three pyramids, beginning at the top of the first, at the apex, M, D at the lower left,
C at the lower right of the first, then go to the second pyramid, C at the apex, L at the lower corner, X at the right lower corner, and then to the third pyramid at the top, X and the lower left, V and the lower right, I, and then draw an inverted pyramid beneath these three, and going across, adding exactly as we have placed 1776 in the same order that it appears on the lower course of the pyramid on the dollar bill. We now add across the lower legs and place the sum of each at the lower apex of the inverted pyramid underneath the three. DC is 600. LX is 60. VI is 666. If we go across the top, ladies and gentlemen, we can see the year that the organization that began this great deception and this great enterprise, for they call it the enterprise, we can see the date that they were formed. Going across the very top apex of the three top pyramids, we have 1,000 plus 100 plus 10 is the year 1110. In 1110, the Priory de Sion was formed. They, in turn, created the Knights Templar, who in turn has been creating a mess. So that should give you more than enough cause to stay awake tonight. Don't go away. We've got a lot more to talk about, folks. In the first episode of the Star Trek series, the captain of the Enterprise was Christopher Pike. The greatest Freemason, by their own admission, that ever lived was Christopher Albert Pike. He was relieved by James T. Kirk. KTJ, backwards, is Knights of the Temple of Jerusalem. And these are the voyages of the Starship Enterprise. The mission? To seek out new life forms and to go wherever no man has ever dared to go before. That, ladies and gentlemen, is into a new future. Aboard the Enterprise. And that ain't written in no book. The Hour of the Time, folks, is brought to you by Swiss America Trading. They specialize in non-reportable, non-confiscatable hard assets, precious metals in its various forms. And if you get real worth from listening to The Hour of the Time, if this program literally lights up your mind and blows you away, then you owe some allegiance to them, for without them you would not be listening to this program. Your level of education would not be where it is at now. You would still be a bleeding sheeple somewhere in a pen being sheared, getting ready to be led into the slaughter. So call them and thank them. Explore the ways that you can save something of what you have in the sure calamities that these deceivers are bringing about. In the near future, I can assure you, the revival of ancient Rome will be a certainty, and the death of what we have always known as the United States of America will be just as certain. Call now 1-800-289-2646. That's 1-800-289-2646. Don't wait to do it, folks. You know how you are. You'll be relieved once you have taken care of business. 1-800-289-2646. Do it now. You'll be glad that you did. Haven't you ever noticed, folks, in the Star Trek series that Spock represents the illumined man, coming from a point of pure reason, warring against the emotions of Captain James T. Kirk? And of course, nothing can ever be repaired or fixed if Scotty is not there, because Scotty hoards the technology. He won't teach anybody anything, and he's the only one who can make that blasted thing go. And that's how they control the crew, who, if you really pay attention, are nothing more than a bunch of zombies who don't have money, don't have families, don't have love, never have fun, and do exactly what they're told to do all the time. Matthew chapter 24, verses 37 through 39 state, and I quote, "The world will be at ease, banquets and parties and weddings, just as it was in Noah's time before the sudden coming of the flood. People wouldn't believe what was going to happen until the flood actually arrived and took them all away. So shall be my coming, or so shall my coming be," end quote. Every ancient culture tells the story of a prehistoric civilization destroyed by flood. Apart from the biblical account of Noah's flood, the most renowned is the legend of the sinking of Atlantis. Ignatius Donnelly in Atlantis, the Antediluvian World, compares the biblical account with this Greek legend. My throat is getting dry, folks, and my tongue is becoming tied to my wisdom tooth, so you'll have to forgive me as I go along. The biblical deluge plainly refers to the destruction of Atlantis and agrees in many important particulars with the account given by Plato. The people destroyed were in both instances the ancient race that had created civilization. They had formerly been in a happy and sinless condition. They had become great and wicked. They were destroyed for their sins, and they were destroyed by water. And if you will remember, water means large numbers, masses of people. People. Democracy. Socialism destroyed Atlantis. That's a fact. Socialism. Democracy. Large numbers of people. Remember in The Lion King? The old king
was killed by the stampede of the herd, the cattle, the people. Brought on by the machinations of Scar, the dark lion with the scar above his eye representing Cain. See, you'd all better wake up. You've been taught baloney and bullshit all your life. And you put a little mayonnaise on it, and you eat it, and you go to town, and you think you're full of food. But you're not. You're spiritually desolate. You know nothing. I am a messenger, and you had better heed my message, for you have no time left. The earliest of secret societies were obsessed with the legend of Atlantis. It's always been their goal to get even for the destruction of their golden age. Who destroyed them? The church, the state, and the mob. It's represented in the initiation by the murder of Hiram Abiff. And they have sworn revenge. They will destroy all existing nation-states, all existing religions, save theirs, secular humanism, wherein man will become God, and they will shackle, enslave the mob forever, so that the mob can never harm them again. You get no helpings of baloney on the hour of the time. You get the truth, and it's force-fed, and you walk away full. And if you get down on your knees tonight and say a prayer, you will be spiritually awakened. William Still, in his book, The New World Order, informs us that, according to Masonic sources, the most important mystery of secret societies is an ancient plan passed down for thousands of years by oral tradition for the establishment of a world government, a universal democracy, a new Atlantis. It is called the Great Work. It is called the Plan. It is called the Enterprise. Old Atlantis was believed by Freemasonry to have been a democracy. Legend states that it was also an advanced scientific society. In fact, it is reputed to have been the center of learning, and Still explains, quote, secret societies believe that in Atlantis stood a great university where most of the arts and sciences originated. The structure that housed this university was an immense pyramid with many galleries and corridors, with an observatory for the study of the stars sitting on its immense apex. Mackey's Encyclopedia of Freemasonry says that from this legend developed a long-lasting tale of a continent in the Atlantic, somewhere west of the Straits of Gibraltar, once covered with civilization which sank suddenly under the waves. This legend sprang up from the inability of those who attempted to discover the meaning of this metaphor, their inability to understand the symbols. Explorers have searched for lost Atlantis in the Mediterranean, west and south of Africa, South America, and off the east coast of the United States. In 1932, Edgar Casey, who lived from 1877 to 1945, who claimed to be a psychic from Kentucky, reportedly pinpointed Atlantis. And to no one's surprise, Casey said it was where Plato had located it, in the Atlantic Ocean, though Casey did not specify exactly where in that great watery expanse, somewhere between the Mediterranean and the Gulf of Mexico. I guarantee you will find nothing there. Then he made another prediction that Atlantis would one day rise up out of the sea near the Caribbean island of Bimini. And if you sit around and wait for it, I guarantee you'll grow old and disappointed, and you will see nothing of the sort. Can we find any connection between the Atlantis of ancient legend and the location of the Beast Empire? Yes. And if you were listening to our series of Mystery Babylon, you've already found it because I gave it to you. It began with Francis Bacon, for he set up in the secret societies the efforts of the initiates
to make the new Atlantis in the New World. And that's exactly why Atlanta, Georgia is named Atlanta. Wake up, dear sheeple. The Apostle John gives a description similar to Casey's of the beast empire in Revelation 13, verse 1. Quote, "And I stood upon the sand of the sea, and saw a beast rise up out of the sea, having 7 heads and 10 horns, and upon his horns 10 crowns." And if you had stood upon the continent of Europe or Africa and looked, ladies and gentlemen, toward the west, if you could have seen the continent of America, that is exactly the vision that you would have beheld. "And I stood upon the sand of the sea, and saw a beast rise up out of the sea, having 7 heads and 10 horns, and upon his horns 10 crowns." The numbers 7 and 10 from this verse in Revelation correlate with the Atlantean legend. Still states that some 10,000 years before the Greek civilization, Atlantis was ruled in complete harmony by a cooperative commonwealth of 10 kings known as the Atlantic League. 7 of these kings ruled over the 7 islands that actually made up what was called the continent of Atlantis. The other 3 kings of the Atlantean kingdom ruled over the other 3 known continents, Europe, Asia, and Africa. Notice he gives away what he is trying to avoid there. The other 3 kings of the Atlantean kingdom ruled over the other 3 known continents, Europe, Asia, and Africa. For he knows what I know, that America is the beast. The legend states that these 10 kings were brothers, which may mean they belonged to a brotherhood similar to Freemasonry. Freemasonry believes the number 10 is significant when applied to government. Manly P. Hall, a 33rd degree Freemason, explains, and I quote, "The League of 10 Kings is the cooperative commonwealth of mankind, the natural and proper form of human government. Atlantis, therefore, is the archetype or the pattern of government which existed in ancient days but was destroyed." End quote. Like the biblical story, the legend of Atlantis states that its destruction was due in large part to its passion for limitless luxury. No longer did the Atlanteans value goodness above material wealth. Does that sound familiar? Plato says, quote, "The portion of divinity within them was now becoming faint and weak, through being oft-times blended with a large measure of mortality," end quote. Loving their possessions above all else, the Atlanteans had lost their virtue. And now the 7 kings of the 7 isles of Atlantis amassed a great army to conquer the 3 continents because of their greed for power. The father of the gods, Zeus, caused the 7 islands, or 7 heads of Atlantis, with its population, to sink beneath the waves. They were literally destroyed by the weight of the welfare state. Freemason Hall states that when Atlantis died, so did the ideal pattern of government, which they're trying to bring back. And every effort to bring it back has always met with failure. Socialism sucks, and so do socialists. According to Hall, the League of 10 Kings is part of the secret doctrine, preserved by secret societies through their oral traditions. Hall believes that when the unifying force of the 10 kings was broken, destruction automatically followed. So complete was this destruction, he writes, that men forgot there is a better way of life and accepted the evils of war and crime and poverty as inevitable. The old Atlantis is gone, dissolved in a sea of human doubts, but the philosophical empire would come again as a democracy of wise men. I'm sure you've noticed how wise they are. They steal, they loot, they rob, they war, they lie, they deceive, they cash bad checks by the thousands. Freemasonry planned long ago to philosophically raise Atlantis out of the sea. Remember, the sea is the masses of people. And in this new land, reestablish democracy as a new world order. And it's written right on the dollar bill of the United States of America, Ordo Novus, Ordo Seclorum.
Novus Ordo Cyclorum. And Cyclorum is intentionally misspelled so that the total number of letters will equal 13, which is the representation of death and resurrection. For the old golden age will be resurrected. And if you noticed in The Lion King, it will be resurrected in the body of racism. For at the end of the movie, you saw all the animals standing only with their own kind, none of them mixed. And the hyenas, representing the black and Hispanic race, had disappeared and were nowhere in sight. Those who rule now call them the useless eaters of the world, and they fully intend to destroy them down to the last man, woman, and child. So much for their benevolent despotism, as they call it. For it's the same old story. A few brilliant men misleading a bunch of ignorant, stupid followers, causing them to believe in these myths to bring about the cause whereby the brilliant few shall rule all. The old dream of the pearl of great price being held in the hand of a man is coming to fruition. And all of you, I don't care what you believe, what church you attend, what race you are, what you think you know, you have been lied to, you have been deceived, you know nothing. Your entire life has been a fantasy. You are living in a vacuum. Your happiness is nothing but self-deception. It's all going to be yanked out from under you. Doesn't matter which side you're on. Doesn't matter what you believe. Don't matter if you're helping or hindering this, fighting it or helping it to bring itself into reality. You are deluded, and unless you come out of your delusion, you will suffer. Truth is the only answer. Seek ye the truth, and the truth shall make you free. Truth is the only answer. Truth is the only religion. Truth is the only way. The path is straight, and the gate is narrow, and only those who seek the truth shall find the path and shall pass through the gate. Good night, ladies and gentlemen. And in your sleep tonight, I hope that I have brought about a means whereby in your dreams, to the darkest courses of your mind, this information can bring about an awakening. If there must be a new world, let us bring it about, and let us make it a world based upon a foundation of truth, love, and understanding. Let us turn away from the liars, the deceivers, and the manipulators. Seek ye the truth, and the truth shall make you free. And in this message tonight can be, if you want it to be, the cocoon of a completely different world than those who would enslave us would bring into being.
You're listening to the Hour of the Time. I'm William Cooper. I don't know, folks, if we're on WWCR or not. I do know we're on the satellite. Well, it sounds like maybe we are. Are we on? Okay. We were blocked from the satellite. Somebody had knocked us off the satellite and then called into the satellite and blocked us from obtaining entry. I don't know who. I don't know why. Doesn't make any difference. We're going to get right into tonight's show anyway. I don't know who you are or why you're doing it. But the only way you'll stop this broadcast is when I'm in my cold, cold grave. And that ain't likely to be anytime soon. Next week, ladies and gentlemen, all of the broadcasts, Monday through Friday, unless I get my business taken care of sooner, will be reruns. All next week will be reruns, but I've chosen some good ones, so make sure that you listen. Also, I want to let you know that in Broken Arrow, Oklahoma, on October the 20th, and this is the only announcement of this you're going to get, so make sure that you listen and that you're there. October the 20th, 1994, in Broken Arrow, Oklahoma, there will be the first meeting of the Constitution Party. The first meeting of the Constitution Party. It'll be at the main library, south entrance, located at 400 Civic Center. That's the October 20th, 7 p.m. at the main library, south entrance, located at 400 Civic Center. For information, call 918-596-7977. That's 918-596-7977. Anybody and everybody is welcome to attend that meeting. Well, last night I sort of left you with a revelation that many of you were not prepared to receive. And tonight I'm going to continue and back it up with a lot of facts. Remember, a lot of the meat of this little mini-series that we're doing this week comes from a book entitled Scarlet and the Beast, written by John Daniel. Scarlet and the Beast, written by John Daniel. If you would like your own copy, please send us $39.95. That's postpaid, $39.95, and we'll get a copy right out to you. Make checks or money orders out to Annie, A-N-N-I-E, and send them to the Intelligence Service, Post Office Box 1420, Sholo, that's spelled S-H-O-W-L-O-W, Arizona, 85901. That's P.O. Box 1420, Sholo, Arizona, 5901. Now, we've covered a lot of territory, and one of the points that I made is that the beast must resemble with at least 14 points exactly ancient Rome. So we'll begin tonight setting out some of these similarities between Rome and the United States of America. From 100 to 300 AD, most of pagan Rome converted to Christianity. And when this nation was founded, 67% of America's population was Christian. Christians in Rome suffered severe persecution. Christians in America were fleeing European persecution. Rome, ladies and gentlemen, in its time was the melting pot of the world. And today, one of the well-known phrases is that America is the melting pot of the world. Rome was a democracy based upon a two-party system, the optimates and the populares. And the United States of America, they say, is a democracy. It was really founded as a republic, but today it is a democracy based upon a two-party system, the Democrats and the Republicans. Rome had a divided balance of power, the Roman tribune and his Senate. America has a divided balance of power, the American president and his Congress. Rome was based on specific laws. They had 12 tables. America is based on specific laws, our Constitution. Rome protected the rights of its citizens. America, up until recently, protected the rights of its citizens. In Rome, all men were equal. That was the international law of Rome. In America, all men are equal according to the Declaration of Independence. But let me set that straight. All men in the Declaration of Independence were created equal. All men are not equal. And in Rome, all men, even though they said they were equal, were not. Those are facts. Look in history and you will see. Rome had a sordid history of slavery. America also had a sordid history of slavery. Rome was capitalistic. America is capitalistic. Rome practiced abortion as a means of population control. And the United States of America practices abortion as a form of birth control. Rome loved R-rated entertainment. Look at the history of Pompeii. And here in the United States of America, we protect R-rated entertainment under the First Amendment as freedom of speech. Rome had a welfare program funded by taxes. And you all know that we also have a welfare budget, and many take advantage of it. In fact, our welfare budget rivals our military budget. Rome had a thriving business in lawsuits. America also has a thriving business in lawsuits. Sports was Rome's pastime. And in America, football dominates fall and winter, basketball winter and spring, and baseball spring and summer. And I know some men who don't know anything more than the sports statistics for their favorite teams. And they think they're brilliant because of it. Ancient Rome's national emblem was the single-headed eagle pointing west. America's national emblem is the single-headed eagle pointing west. From 300 to 500 AD, the Roman Church was weakened spiritually because of pagan infiltration. And after 200 years, the Church in America has also been weakened spiritually because of Masonic infiltration, which is nothing more than the ancient pagan religion of Babylon. So we have not only met 14, ladies and gentlemen, we've gone beyond 14 if you were counting. Most historians also attribute the name America to the explorer Amerigo Vespucci. Freemasonry, however, has a different point of view, and this will be new to most of you. For according to Freemasonry and author Manly Hall, a 33rd degree Freemason, the Indians in Central and South America say the name came from their gods who were peace-loving. For example, the supreme god of the Mayan culture of Central America was known as Quetzalcoatl, a light-skinned god who wore a long white robe covered with red crosses. Carved in the stones of his temples were serpents. Quetzalcoatl was known as the peace-loving serpent god.
The same god in Peru was known as Ameru, the god of peace. Ameru, the god of peace. He was pictured as a plumed serpent. Ameru's territory was known as Amaruca. Amaruca. The 1895 issue of the publication called Lucifer, a periodical published by Freemason Blavatsky's Theosophical Society, states this, quote, "From the latter comes our word America. Amaruca is literally translated land of the plumed serpent. The priests of this god of peace once ruled the Americas. All the red men who have remained true to the ancient religion are still under his sway." And according to author William T. Still, Manly Hall claims that since the serpent is frequently symbolic of Lucifer, it is no exaggeration to extrapolate from this that America may well mean, quote, land of Lucifer, end quote. We already have discussed the hierarchy in Freemasonry and that they consider Lucifer to be the good, benevolent, and peace-loving God. Their philosophy is known as the Luciferian philosophy, and it goes something like this. Man was held prisoner by an unjust, vindictive, and jealous God in the Garden of Eden. He was bound in the chains of ignorance. Man was set free by Lucifer through his agent Satan when man was given the gift of intellect. And through the use of this intellect, man himself will become God. That is the Luciferian promise, the promise of Satan to Eve in the Garden of Eden. Now remember, these are all metaphors. I don't believe for 1 minute that there was a naked man and woman standing by a tree and a snake came up and talked to them. These are substitutes, symbols for something much, much deeper. Much deeper. America is known as the good, benevolent, and peace-loving nation. We've also discussed the seal of the Illuminati, the unfinished pyramid. Its capstone and its all-seeing eye represents the kingdom of Lucifer. The image of this Luciferian masterpiece makes up half of the Great Seal of the United States of America. Just look at a $1 bill. And Ezekiel chapter 28, verse 12, tells us that Lucifer was the epitome of beauty. America, the beautiful, may therefore be a sinister figure of speech for Lucifer, the beautiful. Freemason Manly P. Hall states that when Atlantis died, so did the ideal pattern of government. According to Hall, the League of 10 Kings is part of the secret doctrine preserved by secret societies through their oral traditions. Hall believes that when the unifying force of the 10 kings was broken, destruction automatically followed. So complete was this destruction, he writes, that men forgot there is a better way of life and accepted the evils of war and crime and poverty as inevitable. The old Atlantis is gone, dissolved in a sea of human doubts, but the philosophical empire would come again as a democracy of wise men. This connects directly with the protocols of the wise men of Sion. Freemasonry planned long ago to philosophically raise Atlantis out of the sea, and in this new land reestablish democracy as a new world order, Novus Ordo Seclorum. Masonic author George H. Steinmetz confirms in Freemasonry its hidden meaning that the democratic philosophy of Freemasonry has been traced back to the lost continent of Atlantis. He attempts to prove that Atlantis was a Masonic society by suggesting that the destroyed temples of Upper Egypt are all part of that Atlantean destruction. There, in Egypt, we find their ruined temples, which compared with our lodge rooms have similar floor plans, the same dark north, and many of the same emblems. And remember, in The Lion King, to the north was darkness and desolation. Finally, Steinmetz says that one cannot understand the universality of Freemasonry without accepting the Atlantean account. Hall concurs. Masonry is a university teaching the liberal arts and sciences of the soul to all who will attend to its words. It is a shadow of the great Atlantean mystery school which stood with all its splendor in the ancient city of the Golden Gates, where now the turbulent Atlantic rolls in unbroken sweep. And I bet you wondered why they named the bridge in San Francisco the Golden Gate Bridge. Now you know. Hall suggests that the antediluvian civilization was democratic, that Freemasonry planned over 3 centuries ago to recreate a universal democratic society that will philosophically rise up out of the sea, and like Atlantis, join with 10 kings to lead mankind in the pursuit of universal happiness. And what is the sea? Remember, the sea is the mass of humanity, great numbers of people. To rise up out of the sea is to establish through revolution. And that's coming. He says that the Christian church has delayed the search for the new Atlantis, and that's why they hate Christians, and Christians, like Orthodox Jews and the followers of the Prophet Muhammad, are scheduled for extermination in the New World Order. And he alludes to the ancient Roman Empire as the last attempt at resurrection of the Atlantean project, and states that another attempt would be made. Now we can see how Freemasonry's planned resurrection of Atlantis correlates with Daniel's prophecy of a revived Roman Empire. Likewise, John's vision of the beast with 10 horns, representing 10 kings, is more significant in this regard, given the fact that Freemasonry calls for its one-world government to be patterned after the Atlantean League of 10 kings. Therefore, to locate the headquarters of Freemasonry's new philosophical Atlantis, Daniel's revived Roman Empire, and John's beast, we must search for a land that meets the following requirements. 1. If old Atlantis was democratic, then new Atlantis will be democratic and most likely be born of Templar French Freemasonry, the father of modern socialism. 2. John's beast and Freemasonry's philosophical Atlantis will figuratively rise up out of the sea in the Atlantic Ocean, somewhere west of the Straits of Gibraltar, where old Atlantis was alleged to have sunk, and will be established through revolution from out of the masses of people. 3. If resurrected west of the Straits of Gibraltar, Daniel's revived Rome will be a new land in a new world, populated from the territory of the old Roman Empire. 4. Daniel's uncivilized beast will be born in an uncivilized western land bordered by water. From Daniel's vantage point at Babylon, a land in the extreme west. 5. John's beast will eventually unite with 10 kings, as did old Atlantis, or will be divided into 10 regions according to the plan or the world model of the Club of Rome. And on its model, the world will also be divided into 10 regions. Unlike Edgar Cayce, Manly P. Hall is not looking for ancient Atlantis to literally rise out of the sea, and neither am I, and neither should you, but I know that some of you at least have, are, and will continue to look for the sea as the literal source of the rising of a new landmass, which will be called Atlantis. And you don't understand the symbology, the metaphors. You are looking at the exoteric. You are the sheeple. Manly P. Hall rather looks to America as the nation that will represent philosophical Atlantis, and so do I. And through my studies, I know for a fact that this is it. For they have made the omission over and over and over again in their writings, the esoteric writings of the secret societies, all of them. And America's assignment with destiny Manly P. Hall writes, quote, "The explorers who opened the New World operated from a master plan and were agents of rediscovery rather than discoveries," end quote. And when Columbus landed upon the beach, instead of planting the flag of Spain, whom he was supposed to represent in his discovery, instead, ladies and gentlemen, this great explorer, who instead of carrying the cross of Christianity upon the sails of his ship, carried the cross, the red cross of the Knights Templars, planted a green flag with a white cross. In a second book, called The Secret Destiny of America, Manly P. Hall claims that the unifying goal of ancient secret societies was to create a new Atlantis beyond the Atlantic Ocean in what is now called America. The bold resolution, he said, was that this western continent should become the site of the philosophic empire. Still explains that America, according to this great plan, was to become the first nation to begin to establish a universal democracy or world commonwealth of nations. And this quest was said to be the most noble pursuit to which a man could devote himself. And ladies and gentlemen, I would have to agree with that statement if it were done honestly and openly and for the noble purpose for which they claim. But we know that it is built upon lies and deception and manipulation, and that the men bringing it about, and it is all men, ladies, believe me, there are ladies working toward this goal, but men rule the roost, I can assure you. They do not practice what they preach. They are liars, deceivers, and manipulators. And there is nothing noble about the goal of these scum. The first modern philosopher to promote America as the new Atlantis was Sir Francis Bacon, who lived from 1561 to 1626. He was an English lord and Zionist Rosicrucian. As an occultist well versed in the Great Plan, also known as the Enterprise, Bacon concealed the secret doctrine in a novel entitled New Atlantis, in which he laid out the plan for a utopian society to be built on this newly discovered continent. Masonic authors Marie Bauer Hall and Manly P. Hall respectively say of Bacon, and I quote, "Bacon is the founder of Freemasonry, the guiding light of the Rosicrucian order, the members of which kept the torch of true universal knowledge, the secret doctrine of the ages, alive during the dark night of the Middle Ages. Bacon had been initiated into the new liberalism represented throughout Europe by secret societies of intellectuals dedicated to civil and religious freedom. Later, when the moment was propitious, he threw the weight of his literary group with the English colonization plan for America, cherishing, as he did, the dream of a great commonwealth in the new Atlantis," end quote. Still, says Baconian scholar and Masonic enthusiast Marie Bauer Hall, believes this great plan has been perpetuated by an international group of only the highest initiates of the secret societies, as I have revealed to you over the years. Don't go away. I'll be right back.
Fraternitas Saturni, Fraternitas Rex Mundi, Freemasons, do as thou wilt shall be the whole of the law. O-T-O. The golden dawn. Fraternitas Rotsai Kushai. Ordo Fraternitas Saturni. Ladies and gentlemen, the hour of the time is brought to you by Swiss America Trading. They specialize in non-confiscatable, non-reportable hard assets. Please call them and discuss your financial future. Discuss ways that you can protect what you have spent your life making through investment in hard assets. If you have some ideas, communicate those ideas to the specialists at Swiss America Trading. If you've never thought about or researched the opportunities for safety in the precious metals market, ask them for their advice. Ask them for their publications. Ask for a copy of their free newsletter and read it. Read it. Do it now, folks. Call 1-800-289-2646. You'll be glad that you did. And don't forget, all next week, ladies and gentlemen, will be reruns. Reruns. We will not be here live. And there will be no satellite broadcast next week. Everybody hear that? If you're listening on satellite, you'll have to seek out a shortwave radio as we have no one here. Carolyn is not here. Our new worker, Pete, doesn't yet know how to operate the studio. So there will be no satellite broadcast next week. And all the broadcasts on shortwave will be reruns. These episodes this week, ladies and gentlemen, come from a book called Scarlet and the Beast by John Daniel. Also from my research, the research of the Intelligence Service and the Citizens Agency for Joint Intelligence. We've seen how this international group of highest initiates of the secret societies has changed its name many, many times to conceal the great plan, the great work, the enterprise. Bacon was the first of modern philosophers to reveal this plan as a Masonic blueprint for America. The hierarchy in his day was the Priory of Sion, operating through the Order of Rose Cross, and later the Royal Society, now known as the Royal Institute of International Affairs, spawned off of the Royal Society, which still exists. It's also known as Chatham House. It is the private club for British intelligence. It was then usurped by the Knights Templar, who initially operated through the Illuminati, then the Palladian, and now through Lucis Trust. Rosicrucian Sir Walter Raleigh, a member of a secret society named after Bacon, the Baconian Circle, began the British exploration in America in 1585, settling off the coast of North Carolina on Roanoke Island. His colony failed, and England did not attempt colonization again for a generation. Meanwhile, in 1603, the Priory of Sion lost Great Britain to the Templars when James Stuart VI of Scotland ascended the British throne as King James I. German Rosicrucians immediately went into action, founding Rosicrucian Freemasonry in England, then backing Cromwell to dethrone the Templar Stuarts. Many Protestants joined Cromwell's cause. Finally, in 1717, the Stuarts, with their Templar Freemasonry, were deported to France. During the on-and-off English Revolution that spanned the latter half of the 17th century, the New World was colonized by British and European Protestants fleeing persecution. In 1733, English Freemasonry entered America, founding St. John's Lodge at Boston. Boston, in effect, became the Masonic capital of Britain's transatlantic colonies. These lodges contained only 3 degrees. Now let me go through that again, just in case you missed it. In 1733, English Freemasonry entered America, founding St. John's Lodge at Boston. Boston, in effect, became the Masonic capital of Britain's transatlantic colonies. Between 1733 and 1737, Grand Lodge England chartered additional provincial lodges in Massachusetts, New York, Pennsylvania, and South Carolina, and these lodges contained only 3 degrees. Templar Freemasonry, having been weakened by exile to France, had no strength to establish a base in America. Unimpeded, English Freemasonry planned to inaugurate the great plan contained within her secret doctrine. Happily for America, most of the settlers were Christian. Hence, the great plan was forced to operate much more slowly from within the newly organized English lodges. Now, folks, one of the requirements of the Beast Empire is that it be a democratic nation born of Templar French Freemasonry, the father of modern democracy. Michael Bygent, co-author of The Temple and the Lodge, has traced the movement of the Templars to America. He discovered that Zionist English Freemasonry reigned supreme in Boston until a higher degree Templar Lodge was warranted in 1756 by Grand Lodge Scotland. And he says, quote, "There were thus 2 rival provincial Grand Lodges in Boston," end quote, says Bygent. And he further says, and I quote, "St. John's under the aegis of the Grand Lodge of England, and St. Andrew's under the aegis of Grand Lodge of Scotland. And on 28 August 1769, St. Andrew's conferred for the first time anywhere in the world a new Freemasonic degree, specifically called the Knights Templar degree," end quote. Shortly thereafter, another form of Templar Freemasonry came to America, the quasi-Jacobite Grand Lodge of York, Warranted Lodge in Virginia. York Rite Freemasonry created additional degrees in the New World until it reached the 13th and final degree, known as the Knights Templar degree. 13 is the number of death and resurrection. 13-degree Templar York Rite Masonry, having ceased operation in England after establishing its base in the New World, exists today only in North America. Michael Bygent was able to trace the western migration of the Templars by following their esoteric number 13. As you recall, the original Templar order consisted of 13 degrees. The number 13 also commemorates Friday the 13th, 1307, the day persecution of the Templars began. In 1314, some books say, and the esoteric books say 1313, Jacques de Molay, the Grand Master of the Knights Templar, was burned at the stake. Only in America, says Bygent, has the Templar Grand Master received his most flattering and lavish public homage in the form of a youth organization sponsored by Freemasonry known as the Order of de Molay, which William Clinton belonged to. we have traced his evolution from the Order of Demolay to the York Rite of Freemasonry, which is the Templar branch, of which we know he rose as high as the 7th degree. The Templars also stealthily entered America through military lodges. Of particular significance are those chartered by the Irish Grand Lodge, which offered the higher degrees of Jacobite Masonry. Later, these lodges incorporated the French Templar Scottish Rite of Freemasonry, which then were known as the French Templar Scottish Rite degrees. And it further divided colonial America between two rival forms of Freemasonry. While British politics in the colonies was dominated by English Masons in the Northeast, her military was under the influence of French Templar field lodges throughout the colonies, not a stable union for governing 13 rebellious colonies. Another identifying characteristic of the beast-revived Roman Empire, according to our analysis of Daniel chapter 7, verses 7 through 8, in chapter 26, is that it must be populated by immigrants from the territory governed by the old Roman Empire. Of course, colonial America was populated by peoples from a Europe shaped by ancient Rome and later by the Holy Roman Empire. Templar influence in America began after Prince Charles Edward, the young Stuart pretender, failed to regain his British throne. As you may recall, in 1746, he was soundly defeated, forever dashing the hopes of Scottish Templars recapturing England. And as a result, many Irish and Scottish Templar Jacobites who had fought with Charles Stuart fled to America. Those who returned to France with the prince founded the Scottish Rite of Freemasonry. Between 1745 and 1753, the British and European Templar population in the New World had increased dramatically. In 1754, Benjamin Franklin attempted to relieve population pressure by proposing a plan for the union of all 13 colonies. The British government rejected Franklin's proposal, fearing a united America would be difficult to control. Subsequently, the exploring population was forced to move west into French territory, which precipitated the French and Indian War in America, a phase of the 7 Years' War on the continent of Europe. And during this war, the French military brought to the New World the Templar Scottish Rite, first setting up base at Boston, then Charleston, South Carolina. Michael Bejant, in The Temple and the Lodge, explains, and I quote, "Prior to the 7 Years' War, most of the Freemasonry in North America was orthodox, pro-Hanoverian, warranted by Grand Lodge London. During the 7 Years' War, however, higher-degree Templar Freemasonry, by means of regimental field lodges, was transplanted on a large scale to the American colonies and quickly took root. Boston, the soil from which the American Revolution was to spring, exemplifies the process of transplantation and the friction that sometimes arose from it." Those who stuck to the British branch, or the British Lodge, became the Tories. Those who clung to French Freemasonry became the revolutionary Americans who established this nation. We know that George Bush and the Bush family belonged to the English branch of Freemasonry, and after George Bush left the office of President of the United States of America, he was knighted by Queen Elizabeth II. Benjamin Franklin became a Mason in February 1731 and Provincial Grand Master of Pennsylvania in 1734, and again in 1749. In 1756, he was inducted into the Royal Society in absentia. The Royal Society, as you may recall, was an English Masonic front organization for the Rosicrucian Priory of Sion. Between 1757 and 1762, and again between 1764 and 1775, Benjamin Franklin spent considerable time in England and France. While in England, he discovered English Freemasonry's secret doctrine for America.
Franklin was in London in 1775 when he was made aware that war between the colonies and Great Britain might break out at any moment, so in March he returned to Philadelphia. Later that year, he attended the Second Continental Congress, through which he helped draft the Declaration of Independence. In 1776, he was sent to Paris, where he came in contact with the Illuminati. Franklin learned of the esoteric significance of the number 13 and the Illuminati plan for the 13 American colonies. He stayed in Paris only a short while, returning to America with this important information. And on the afternoon of July 4th, 1776, he with two other Masons were appointed by the Continental Congress to design the Great Seal of the United States of America, which would include the seal of the Illuminati. And in the significance of that date, Osiris rose once again, was resurrected. The old dream of the Golden Age was reborn. Osiris, who was born in July, and in the dim antiquities of ancient history, was slain by Set, also known as Typhon, who was born in the month of August, was again born. Benjamin Franklin, with two other Masons, were appointed by the Continental Congress to design the Great Seal of the United States of America, which included the seal of Adam Weishaupt's Illuminati. Bajant suggests that Franklin favored the Illuminati plan to create a new world democracy, a philosophical Atlantis, over the British plan for an oligarchic expansion of empire. When Franklin was in France, he began to build a spy network in preparation for America's independence from England. And Bajant gives us the details. Quote, on 9 November 1777, a special committee, the Committee of Congress for Secret Correspondence, was appointed to establish a network of contacts among our friends abroad. Now, folks, our friends means initiates of the secret societies working in conjunction toward the completion of the great plan. This committee consisted of Robert Morris, John Jay, Benjamin Harrison, John Dickinson, and Benjamin Franklin, and this began the control of the intelligence community of the United States of America by the secret societies which still control it today. It was to operate extensively through Freemasonic channels and to lead to the creation of an elaborate spy network. At the same time, and quite coincidentally, it was to overlap a British spy network which ran parallel to it and also operated through Freemasonic channels. Both networks were to be based primarily in Paris, which became the center for a vast web of espionage, intrigue, and shifting allegiances. End quote. Spying was not foreign to Benjamin Franklin. As Deputy Postmaster General for the American colonies from the 1750s until 1775, he became particularly friendly with his British counterpart, Sir Francis Dashwood, who moved in Jacobite Masonic circles. Dashwood also had Masonic friends who were staunch supporters of Charles Edward Stuart. While in England, Franklin stayed at Dashwood's estate. Michael Bajant gives us more details about the traditional role of spymaster incumbent upon postmasters general. And I quote, because it afforded access to virtually all letters, all communications, the position of postmaster general was also traditionally that of spymaster. And during the American War for Independence, their experience as postmasters general was to stand both Dashwood and Franklin in good stead. In his dual role of spymaster and colonial ambassador to France, Franklin established his center of operations in Paris. He was accompanied here by two other appointees of the Congressional Committee for Secret Correspondence, Silas Deane and Arthur Lee. Lee's brother was based in London. So too was Franklin's sister, who was also believed to have been engaged in espionage. End quote. Ben Franklin is often said to have been a Christian, but we know that he was not. He was also the master of the Lodge of 9 Muses in France.
He lived with 2 different women out of wedlock and had several children who were in that day and age known as bastards. Franklin's sister introduced Franklin to the Howe brothers, one a general in the British Army, the other an admiral, both of whom belonged to Templar military lodges in the colonial theater of operation. As Templars, they were favorable to the rebellion, and in fact, in 1781, the Howe brothers were accused of belonging to a faction which conspired to facilitate the colonists' bid for independence. In my investigations of all of these people, their membership and their involvement is passed on from father to son, from mother to daughter, throughout the ages. The Howe family, ending today with the involvement of Linda Moulton Howe in the establishment of an extraterrestrial threat to this earth. Franklin's Templar Masonic friends in the Postal Service and in the military also had Templar sympathizers in the British Parliament. And these traitors to the British Crown clandestinely raised money for the colonial Continental Army and remitted it to Franklin in Paris. Franklin passed it on to North America or used it in France to purchase arms and material. In 1778, Franklin joined the Illuminati Lodge, Neuf Soeurs, or the Nine Sisters, the Lodge of the Nine Muses. He rose to be the master of that lodge, and he assisted in the initiation of Voltaire. Later, he became Grand Master of the Lodge. In 1782, Franklin joined a more elusive and mysterious Freemasonic conclave known as the Royal Lodge of Commanders of the Temple West. So much for Benjamin Franklin. As stated earlier, the British spy network in Paris was also Masonic. Its agents had penetrated Franklin's operation by joining his Nine Sisters Lodge. Thus, the British government was kept apprised not only of the colonists' activities, but also of French plans for entering the war. British knowledge of the impending colonial revolt did not, however, reach ears in America, because the British colonial high command in charge of the Crown's army and navy in the New World, namely the Howe brothers, were Templar Freemasons solidly in the camp of Franklin. To guarantee the success of the American Revolution, the Howe brothers displayed dilatory conduct throughout the war. The War for American Independence was a continuation of the battle between English and French Freemasonry, the conflict over the control of New Atlantis. Originated in Boston between 2 adversarial lodges, Zionist St. John's and Templar St. Andrews. Among the members of St. Andrews were John Hancock and Paul Revere. To the south in Virginia were 2 other Templar Masons, Patrick Henry and Richard Henry Lee, who in 1769 prompted the Virginia Assembly to formally condemn the British government. Events swiftly accelerated toward open conflict between England and her American colonies. And in 1770, the famous Boston Massacre occurred when British sentries killed 5 rioters. In 1771, 13 rebels were executed for treason in North Carolina. In 1772, 2 prominent Freemasons, John Brown and Abraham Whipple, had attacked a customs ship off Rhode Island and burned it. In 1773, the British government increased the tax on tea to keep the British East India Company solvent. In retaliation, Knights Templar Freemasons from St. Andrew's Lodge, dressed as Mohawk Indians, after the meeting of the lodge adjourned, boarded the Dartmouth in Boston Harbor and dumped its tea overboard. This, ladies and gentlemen, is the truth about the famous Boston Tea Party that is said to have triggered the American Revolution. It took 3 months for the news of the Boston Tea Party to reach London, whereupon the British Parliament declared Massachusetts to be in a state of rebellion. Not realizing the significance of the Masonic division in the colonies, the Crown's action was swift and misguidedly drastic. The Boston Port Bill, which placed an embargo on all trade with Boston, for example, effectively closed the port and stiffened colonial resolve against the Crown. On September the 5th, 1774, the First Continental Congress convened in Philadelphia to plan action against the British. The Congress was under the presidency of Templar Freemason Peyton Randolph, a prominent attorney and provincial Grand Master of Virginia. Boston delegates included Samuel Adams and Paul Revere. In February 1775, the Massachusetts Provincial Congress met and announced plans for armed resistance. Within a month, Templar Freemason Patrick Henry made his famous speech, "Give me liberty or give me death," to Virginia's Provincial Assembly. On April 18, 1775, 700 British troops were dispatched outside Boston. Templar Freemason Paul Revere made his famous ride announcing, "The Redcoats are coming." The Templar bid to take America from Rosicrucian England had begun. This war continues today. If you think you're on the right side, I can assure you you're on the wrong side, no matter which side you are on. Each of us individually must begin to study, research, and learn the truth, and we must come out of Mystery Babylon and out of the beast. Seek ye the truth, and the truth shall make you free. It is the only religion. It's the best advice that has been given down to us throughout the last 2,000 years. It is the only thing that can bring us out. It is the only thing that can truly make us free. Good night, and God bless you all.